reporter there. Now let's get back down to D.C. because what we don't have is a government that is open. We did not get the jobs data today. And so we got to go to our go-to person down there in D.C., Nathan Dean, Senior Policy Analyst from Bloomberg Intelligence. Looking at your notes here, Nathan, today is essentially a lost day. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think Senator Thune has already said that, he's planning to send the Senate home for the weekend and that, with yesterday being Yom Kippur, there really hasn't been much momentum or either party really seeing any desire to come together and having a negotiation. We have heard, Bloomberg News is reporting that there have been, bipartisan talks at the moderate Senate level, not involving leadership about potentially what to do, but, they're already planning to go home. They're going to come back next week, and the idea here is when they come back next week, they'll figure it out. But I will just say that the Washington Post released some polling today showing that more Americans blame Republicans than Democrats. And so the big question that's going around Washington at the moment is, will President Trump and the director of the OMB embark on these widespread layoffs? And how does that change the political the calculus? Because I think that come next week, presuming that there are no layoffs and that the Democrats and Republicans decide to negotiate, I think a deal can get done next week. That's the major question, though, is that, what will the OMB do?
You say that very much everyone is still in the blame the other camp mode, where when they come out, it's a way of saying, hey, this is all the other guy's fault. Is that resonating with voters, with consumers, with ordinary people? Do they buy that? How much of it is everyone just splitting along tribal lines here?
So it's tribal lines right now, but the polling suggested that independents are favoring Democrats more than Republicans, partly because of the increased awareness of the Obamacare subsidies expiration debate. At the end of the year, a lot of premiums for Obamacare will go up, or actually sooner rather than that, because these subsidies expire. And with the Democrats focusing on one message, that seemed to be resonating a little bit. However, the Republicans also have a good story to tell in which to say that, look, we are the ones that are trying to keep the government open by offering a clean CR. And so right now, I think both sides are just trying to shore up their base. And then when the House Republicans come back next week, because right now they're out of town, when everybody is back next week, that's when you're going to see negotiations really kick off. What I'm looking for are two things. I'm looking for, what Senator Thune and what Senator Schumer are going to say over the weekend. And I'm also going to look and see what moderate Democrats step forward to say maybe this is something that we should deal with, because two Democrats and an independent that caucuses with the Democrats have already gone against Senator Schumer to vote for the reopening of a government. Let's look at those Virginia, Maryland senators to see what they want to do in terms of OMB, and some of those purple state senators to see if they want to keep the government open.
So, Nathan, in the next hour of Bloomberg Television, I'll be speaking with Jeb Hensarling, who's the former chair of the House Financial Services Committee. And back in 2013, he co-sponsored a government shutdown prevention act that would provide for automatic continuing resolutions to avoid budget standoffs that never made it get past committee. And that didn't go anywhere, so there's no legacy there. But I'm wondering, should Congress revisit that idea of automatic CRs, or is that simply impossible in this current political climate?
You would find very little individuals on the Republican side that would actually vote for that, because then the question is, why should we do budget appropriations in the first place if we just can't come to an agreement, the government stays open? Continuing resolutions are not popular with a significant portion of the Republican Party. In fact, Senator Rand Paul voted against the deal to keep the government open solely because of that. And so when, former Chairman Hensarling proposed that, it came in the idea of this Tea Party, shutdown that occurred at the end of 2013. But I would just note is that even though the Republicans did take a lot of the blame at the time, in 2014, they made significant gains both in the Senate and the House as a course of that. So shutdowns, as much as the American populace hate them, they are political, and they are political for a reason. And for some policymakers, stories and politics can actually be beneficial based off of them.
Nathan, just about 30 seconds. You live down there in D.C. Are your neighbors and friends, are they concerned about their jobs, the ones that work in the government?
Yeah, anecdotally from the flag football fields over this past weekend, that was the number one question I got. And I will say traffic coming in this morning felt like the Friday before Labor Day. There is a lot of widespread angst over what the OMB is going to do. And what I tell to my clients, and more importantly to my friends, is that I think this weekend you may see a strategic layoff, something that provides noise and gets the Democrats on notice. But I think there's a lot of Republicans out there that are a little uneasy, the idea of widespread layoffs.
All right, Nathan, thanks so much. Always appreciate your reporting. Nathan Dean.